Hey, it's Ryan Seacrest. Life comes at you fast, which is why it's important to find some time to relax. A little you time. Enter Chumba Casino. With no download required, you can jump on anytime, anywhere for the chance to redeem some serious prizes. So treat yourself with Chumba Casino and play over 100 online casino-style games, all for free. Go to ChumbaCasino.com to collect your free welcome bonus. Sponsored by Chumba Casino.
No purchase necessary. VGW Group. Void where prohibited by law. 21 plus. Terms and conditions apply.
I earned my degree online at Arizona State University. I chose to get my degree at ASU because I knew that I'd get a quality education, they were recognized for excellence, and that I would be prepared for the workforce upon graduating. To be associated with ASU, both as a student and alum, it makes me extremely proud, and having experienced the program, I know now that I'm set up for success. Learn more at asuonline.asu.edu.
Welcome back to the show, my friends. I am your host, Eric Szilagyi. If you've had an uncomfortable experience and you'd like to have it shared here on the show, please get a hold of me at contact.uncomfortable@gmail.com. The world wants to hear your cryptid and UFO experiences, so please reach out to me and let's get yours on the next episode of Uncomfortable. If you haven't yet, please make sure to like us on Facebook and Instagram, both at Uncomfortable Podcast 65. And once you've had a chance to listen to an episode or two, please make sure you leave us a 5-star rating and review wherever you can. That alone is the one most important thing that you can do to help get this show out in front of more people. And with more people listening, that means more great experiences coming your way. If video is more your thing, then make sure you subscribe to Uncomfortable Podcast on YouTube, where you can get the video version of most shows like tonight's. If that's where you listen to us, please make sure to click like and subscribe and hit the notification bell so you are notified with each and every new release. Take a minute and check out the Uncomfortable Podcast link tree. It's the single best place that you can find anything and everything uncomfortable all in one spot. The link for that is in the show notes below. I have what promises to be a great show for you tonight. The author of the book, American Mythology, is here to talk about his debut novel, a story about the basic Bigfoot Society, which is a story of two lifelong friends on the hunt for the great North American wood ape. Publishers Weekly writes that this novel hits just the right tone, balancing satire, horror, and heartfelt drama. It's getting rave reviews and leans heavily on the mythos of our favorite hairy cryptid friends. The author was kind enough to send me an advanced copy of this book, and I have to say, I would suspect the story should especially appeal to fans of folklore cryptids and the paranormal. I came away with it with a feeling of it being a good, spooky mystery told around a campfire. Something tells me there could be more to the story than just a fictional account, and we're going to dive into that. So if you're ready, let's get into it. So if you will, please give a warm, uncomfortable welcome to author Giano Cromley. Giano, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Eric. Thank you for having me on. This is a real honor. I love your podcast. So this is.
I appreciate that, sir. Yeah. Thank you so much. I enjoyed your book. I'm telling you, right here. Can you see it? No glare on it.
Yeah.
American Mythology, Giano Cromley. We were talking before we started recording. I have issues with reading because of ADHD, like something or other that I never knew I had, but the doctors say I have it. So it takes a lot to be able to focus and get through a book. This was fun. It was good. It was scary. Just like I said in the intro, it reminded me of a good campfire story. It really is good. But there's something about the conversation that we had before we started recording that leads me to think that there was something else behind the writing of this book that might have been a little bit more real than what I've heard. So let's get into it.
Sure.
Born and raised in Montana. And did I read correctly? Even did some time as a wildlife tracker?
Well, I'm a certified wildlife tracker, so I've taken classes in it with a kind of a pretty legendary tracker in Montana named Jim Halfpenny, who taught the courses. So I would not call myself a professional tracker, but I can hold my own out there.
Awesome. That's very cool. Yeah. Very cool. So before we get too far into it, let's hit everybody up with what's the release date for this? Sure.
Yeah. So the book is set to release July 15th. It'll be available in hardcover, ebook, and audiobook. And if people would like, they could pre-order it now. From basically anywhere you would get your books, whether it's one of the online giants or whether it's your local bookstore. You can pre-order it now because probably come summer, I think it might be a nice vacation read for a lot of people.
What about websites, social media? How can people get a hold of you if they need to or
Sure.
are interested?
Yeah. My website is my name, GianoCromley.com. I'm on Instagram with the handle Giano Cromley. I'm on Facebook. I'm on X and Bigs and Blue Sky. So those are probably the best ways to reach me. I do have a contact button on my website. So if people need to send me an email directly, they can do it that way if they're not on social media. So those are probably the best ways. Yeah.
Well, again, I have to say it was a thoroughly enjoyable story.
I mean, thank you for saying that. And I really appreciate it. I appreciate that you read it and that you say those kind things about it. I like good stories. I like the kind of book that really kind of makes you want to just, go into the next chapter when you finish a chapter. So, the fact that you said that you normally aren't necessarily, I know you mentioned that fiction isn't necessarily your bag. You're kind of more nonfiction. And so the fact that you felt like you really, were pulled through it, that means a lot. That's kind of really what I was going for. Aspect of what I was going for.
I would highly recommend, and we kind of started talking about the divisiveness of the community of Bigfootery.
Yeah.
And, you got the skeptics, you got the believers, you got the experiencers, who's right, who's wrong, who's going out and doing the research the correct way, who's going out and wasting their time. There's so many different avenues and rabbit holes to go down. But it's genuinely an enjoyable story.
Thank you. That's great to hear. That is really great to hear. And, we talked before, I followed the Bigfoot community really closely. And so, I'm aware of all the factions. I'm aware of all the kind of infighting. And I wanted to kind of maybe represent that in some of the characters in the book. It's got the two central friends, Jute and Virgil, who kind of both subscribe to, maybe that one is more of a kind of a flesh and blood, Bigfooter, the other's more of a woo Bigfooter. So, and the other people on the expedition that takes place, they kind of all have varying levels of belief. And so that was something I really kind of wanted to make sure that I included in this story. And then also just talk about how Bigfoot it really is kind of, like an interesting measure of people's belief, right? And what people choose to believe.
And I probably have a little bit better, different understanding of that because I've been a part of so many different conferences as a vendor, and you've got people coming up to the table, through the whole day. And, You've had people who are just enamored with the idea that Bigfoot exists.
Yeah.
And they're very excited about it, and they want to talk about it, but they've had no experience, and other than being an armchair quarterback in front of, whatever show or documentary they're watching, there's really nothing else. But then you have the people that walk up and they look at you and, you really believe in that shit?
Yeah, sure.
And then, once you get past that and, 10 minutes later, after that guy's been kind of hanging around the table a little bit, looking at all the things that are, for sale or the footcasts and whatever. And then he comes back over and he's like, I don't know, back in August of 1973, very specific stuff that, then he just unloads this story and he's like, but I don't want to be on the show. I don't want to tell anybody about it. You run into those people all the time.
Oh, I'm sure you do. And I mean, again, I'm definitely the definition of kind of an armchair Bigfoot person, right? Like you're kind of out there talking to the people, meeting them, interviewing them. So, you definitely are kind of seeing them, firsthand. I think of Bigfoot in many ways as like a Rorschach test, like an ink blot test,
That's interesting. Yeah.
Where what you believe about Bigfoot really says more about you than it says about Bigfoot, right? Like it really is just kind of a measure of what I think in some ways it's a measure of how eager or how able you are to embrace doubt or to embrace uncertainty. And also I think it's a measure of hubris, right? Like I think people who are really, really kind of quick, that one person you mentioned who dismisses it out of hand.
Sure.
I think that a lot of that kind of dismissal comes from a sense of.
It is Ryan Seacrest here. There was a recent social media trend which consisted of flying on a plane with no music, no movies, no entertainment. But a better trend would be going to ChumbaCasino.com. It's like having a mini social casino in your pocket. Chumba Casino has over 100 online casino-style games, all absolutely free. It's the most fun you can have online and on a plane. So grab your free welcome bonus now at ChumbaCasino.com. Sponsored by Chumba Casino.
No purchase necessary. VGW Group. Void where prohibited by law. 21 plus. Terms and conditions apply.
Of hubris, of kind of pride and not being able to admit that they maybe don't know everything that's out there.
Well, and it's funny you say that, because I'll even use my friend Rob as a point. He is now he's been a hunter since he was old enough to go out hunting with his dad.
Yeah.
Indiana, Ohio, Michigan, several seasons a year, turkey, bow, shotgun, muzzle loader, and when I first met him and he knew that I was into this stuff long before I even started doing this show, he'd kind of give me a wink and be like, yeah, whatever, and rib me about it a little bit, but never really terrible. But like the longer that I've done the show, he is, thankfully, thanks Rob, has taken to listen to the show.
Yeah.
And, he's drawn into my second and third episode. It was a two-parter. It was about a gentleman who had one walk out in front of him on opening day about, I think it's 9 years ago now. After that happened, two of his daughters had experiences as well.
Okay.
And that kind of got him. That kind of got him into, because he knows this guy, he knows the family.
Yeah.
He knows the story inside and out now. And so even though he's never had any kind of experience out in the woods, he's like, he doesn't know what to make of it.
Yeah.
And I mean, I've talked to other people who have been hunters who Yeah, well, I mean, I saw lights in between the trees, but it was another hunter. Well, maybe it was, maybe it wasn't. Loud wood knocks. Maybe somebody was building a tree stand, but maybe it wasn't. Because they only heard one or two knocks. So I think it's become a very interesting topic for him, and I'm not quite sure where he falls on it yet. I know he knows me well enough that I would not just be sitting here talking about something that was complete and utter bullshit for 50 years of my life.
Yeah, sure.
I know him well enough to know that he would not look at me and say, he's just been a whack job for the last 50 some years. So, but does that answer a question? It doesn't, but those are the type of people that, you run into when you're talking about this subject. And I still firmly believe there's people that I've talked to at conferences, at conferences who have come up to talk to me, and they've lost their they probably had it very much in mind that as soon as I get up there, I'm going to tell them my experience, and then they chicken out, because it became too real, or I won't believe them, or something that they want to say is going to be too kooky and it doesn't make any sense. And, why would anybody? So,
well, I mean, I think, Eric, that's a really good point. And I find, you hear these people's stories, these eyewitnesses stories or ear witnesses stories, right? And could some of them be explained away as misidentifications? Certainly, right?
Absolutely.
I know for a fact that black bears can really look strange when you kind of see them through the trees, right? And they make a lot of noise that could sound very strange. Could a strange sound be an animal that you just didn't realize it makes that sound? For sure. And are some people making stories up? I'm sure, right?
Absolutely.
But I think that if you kind of look at those stories collectively, all together, I just think that there's so many across the board that I think I think it would be kind of almost unreasonable not to at least consider that there must be something going on out there,
And I think you can take that same template and apply it to UFOs.
Sure.
Now I love cryptids.
Mm-hmm.
The Jersey Devil, all that stuff.
Mm-hmm.
To me, those are folklore.
Yeah.
Those are fairy tales based on, why that Jersey Devil stuck and has continued to be. I don't understand it. Bigfoot, to me, I completely understand.
Yeah.
I mean, I've had a couple of very strange experiences in the woods, not 12 minutes from where I live.
Yeah.
And I live in a very normal community. I'm not, the guy that I was just talking about in episodes 2 and 3, his house is maybe 18 minutes from where I live. Okay. And his experience happened both at a public hunting land about, as the crow flies, probably 40 miles from his house. And then very quickly after that, his two daughters each have an experience at their property, which is strange to me because, is it related?
Mm-hmm.
Is it completely separate? And it just happened to happen around the same time.
Yeah.
It's just, there's so much to this topic.
Yeah.
And I'm glad you didn't shy away from the woo, because it in itself is a divisive category for people. Mind speak.
Yeah.
Is there really somebody's voice in your head, or is that something that is an artifact? Is that a manufactured thing from your brain saying, get out of this area because something doesn't feel right? That doesn't take away from the fact that there may be one of those entities near you causing you to believe that and making you want to leave the area. But, for me, it's hard to believe that a voice will come into your head but I've never had it happen.
Exactly.
I have walked through a very, very not so rural area where I hunted and had something just inside the tree line. I was in the field, maybe 20 feet out of the tree line, and I had something in the tree line and I had a powerful O-light.
Yeah.
I had something walking beside me.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah.
Couldn't see it.
Pacing you. Yeah. Yeah.
Never saw a twig move. Never saw a leaf kind of float back down to like it got knocked off a twig. I don't know what the hell to make out of that.
Yeah.
But it followed me 2/3 of the way back to my car.
Yeah.
Where I was parked. And it wasn't until I got to the back of the house on the property that I was hunting when the lights kicked on from the motion sensor. And the lights weren't even shining towards the tree line. It was more like a patio area.
Yeah.
But as soon as those lights kicked on, I didn't hear anything walking beside me anymore.
Yeah.
I don't know what the hell it was.
A couple things. I think that's, I think that's a very interesting experience. And I would ask, did you feel like, what was your intuition telling you in that moment? Okay. You talking about that and about the mind speak and kind of woo in general, right? Mm-hmm. There's the science fiction author, Arthur C. Clarke. Mm-hmm. He has these 3 laws, but one of the laws is any sufficiently advanced technology is indistinguishable from magic, which I like to think about in terms of just when kind of Bigfoot conversation turns toward the inexplicable, perhaps, where it's like, if there's some ability that this creature might have that we don't understand, then our instinct is going to be to describe it as magic, right? As woo, as, the paranormal, when in fact, there are things that we now know in quantum physics that happen regularly, like quantum entanglement, where, it seems like magic, but that's just what it is. Right. Yeah. So a lot of that stuff, when people kind of maybe give me some grief for talking about some of that stuff, I like to point that out, that just because we don't understand it, doesn't mean that it's magic. It doesn't mean that it's, just some fantasy. It's just maybe something that we're not familiar with the technology yet.
Well, how many times have you ever heard in your life, usually when, speaking about a mother and a child, mother's intuition. And, when we were sleeping around a fire ring in a loincloth.
Yep.
And there was untold dangers lurking behind trees and rocks and all those things. And we were sleeping with one eye open while the rest of our family unit slept. The sixth sense and the other senses that have been dumbed down because we put walls up and we put a roof up and we have windows that lock and we have doors that lock. And, if you strip those away and you go back to living how these things in the wild live, imagine just how different their perception and their senses are compared to us.
Exactly.
Now. And I think that falls right in line with what you're saying.
Yeah. I mean, everything gives off energy, right? Like, a rock is giving off some kind of energy, some kind of, quantum vibration, right? Like, and I think that, your point is exactly correct, where, throughout, human history, the vast amount, of kind of human history before we had, these modern conveniences, we had to, in order to survive, you had to kind of be able to sense, like, there is a saber-toothed tiger right outside camp, right? Like, though, and so why would we assume that some other creature out there, has retained those abilities when, we've obviously kind of chosen a different path, but, I think that's entirely reasonable.
So the book manages several things, I think, very well. One being the comedy, the humor in it. And we talked a little about this before we started recording, because, I have no problem with humor. But just like I said about the sign behind me, when I decided to put this up, Camp Bigfoot, hide and seek every night, I had some problems kind of rectifying the idea of putting that up in the studio, because I was afraid people would view that as being not taking the topic serious. Yeah. When I have over 200 episodes where I quite obviously take this very serious, something like that in the background could jar somebody and tick them off or whatever. But you do a good job of having a thread of comedy throughout the book. But it's also creepy and at points downright spooky.
Good.
Good. I mean, it really is. And it makes me wonder.
It is Ryan here, and I have a question for you. What do you do when you win? Like, are you a fist pumper, a woo-hooer, a hand clapper, a high fiver? If you want to hone in on those winning moves, check out Chumba Casino. Choose from hundreds of social casino-style games for your chance to redeem serious cash prizes. There are new game releases weekly, plus free daily bonuses. So don't wait. Start having the most fun ever at ChumbaCasino.com.
No purchase necessary. VGW Group. Void where prohibited by law. 21 plus. Terms and conditions apply.
As far as a personal experience, because some of that spookiness, some of that eeriness, I get a feeling that is something that you experienced.
Yeah, for sure. I definitely, I've always had a huge fascination with Bigfoot. I'm of that age where, my interest was piqued by the In Search Of. So, that's kind of where I boarded the train. And so I always kind of, circled that, just was fascinated by Bigfoot. But it was in 2014 that I had an encounter, what I believe was an encounter. It was we were talking earlier, and I know you've had guests who've mentioned this location before. It was bordering the Manistee National Forest in Michigan.
Yeah.
And which is interesting because, I grew up, backcountry camping in the Beartooth Mountains in Montana, the Crazies and the Tobacco Roots. So I've done a lot of camping out west. We were staying at a kind of an Airbnb. But it was called Cabin in the Woods, was like the name of the listing. So it was in the woods, not completely isolated. You couldn't see any other places, but there were others around. And the yard did kind of border the Manistee National Forest, which I think you're familiar with it. At least in my experience, we spent some time hiking in there. It feels like just a really kind of old, dark place. Like it just, it feels, to me, it just feels really different than a lot of the places I've been in. But regardless, we'd spent, the week maybe hiking with our dogs and whatnot. It was toward the end of our stay there. It was actually our last night, and we were out back. We had a campfire going. There's a little fire pit there. And we were just sitting there. It was me and my wife and our 2 dogs. We kind of getting late. The fire was starting to die down a little bit, and we could hear in the distance a pack of coyotes kind of yipping, which, is very normal for that type of place. Yeah. And honestly didn't think much of it. And then just kind of out of the blue, there was this sound. And I can really only describe it as kind of a cross between a howl and a yell. Eric, I've heard every animal that could possibly be out there. And I do think a lot of the kind of Bigfoot calls are maybe strange bird noises and stuff. Mm-hmm. But this was truly just unlike anything I'd ever heard. It was just kind of blood curdling in a way. It was very loud, very clear. And again, the only way I could describe it is kind of half human, half animal. It lasted for maybe 7 to 8 seconds. And then almost immediately after, from the other side, a second one sounded. And again, it didn't sound like the same creature, but it was this, the identical creature, but it sounded like the same type of creature. Okay. And that one lasted about 10 seconds. Again, just kind of the forest just dampened everything. It was just everything stopped. And then a moment later, there was the sound of a coyote in acute distress, like just a death screech of the coyote. Yeah. And then immediately after that, there were some kind of guttural sounds, like low guttural sounds. And at that point, so one of our dogs was a Great Pyrenees. Big boy. Yeah, big boy, good boy. And they're livestock guarding dogs, right? Yeah. So like they're in their DNA is hardwired to they are very chill, because their whole purpose is when the sheep go out to the pastures, the mountain pastures, they stay with them. So they have to be really calm, because you don't want to rile the sheep up, especially at night, unless there is a threat. And they're very, very good at discerning when there is a threat or not. So, for example, while the coyotes were kind of yipping, he didn't, bat an eyelash, right? Because he knew that wasn't a threat at that moment. As soon as the second howl happened and then the coyote screech, he went ballistic. Really? Yeah, like just barking at the tree line, lunging at the tree line. We had the leash, thankfully, so we were able to hold him back. It was hard. He was a 120-pound dog, but he clearly sensed that there was something dangerous in the woods right there. And honestly, I've listened to recordings of kind of everything that I know of that could have been in, the forests of Western Michigan. And I have not heard anything that sounds like it. Honestly, to be honest with you, the thing that I've heard that sounds most like it is the Ohio howl.
Interesting.
Yeah. And so at that point, we were pretty scared, pretty freaked out. So we just immediately doused the fire and went inside. Because it didn't feel like it was safe to be outside at that point.
There's something very unique about that recording, and not just that recording. There's several, but what always gets me about that sound is, and this is probably just me assigning something to it, But it very much sounds like it's coming from a voice, a vocal cords.
Yes.
Not a growl, not a, you know, I don't want to say a human voice, but something much more akin to a human voice but with much more, a lot more volume, a lot more breath behind it.
Yeah. Yeah. That's actually, I've never really talked with anyone about that, but that's actually a really good description. It feels like a type of human vocal cord, but not human, like way too strong for it.
Yeah.
I've thought about it a lot. This is going to sound a little bit strange. There was an opera singer, Luciano Pavarotti, and one of his kind of more famous,
another big boy.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, kind of Bigfoot size, right? There's a piece that he performed called Nessun Dorma, which is kind of the most famous piece that he would perform. And toward the end of it, there's this, he repeats the word vincerò, which means I will win, 3 times. And on the third one, he hits this sound quality that just, it doesn't feel human. And I mean, I think there's probably been in the history of, civilization, only a few people who could hit that type of note. But honestly, that kind of, it enters this weird vibrational frequency that reminds me most of what I heard that night.
Interesting.
Yeah.
And the reaction of your dog is a pretty good indicator that something had him spooked. Something had him. He was in. It didn't sound like he was in flight mode. It definitely sounded like he was in engaging in an aggressive mode.
Yeah, and he was a rescue from downstate Illinois, where he worked on a farm. So he worked. He was a working dog before we adopted him. So we know that. I mean, he that was not just kind of that was something he knew what he was doing.
Interesting. Thanks for sharing that.
Yeah.
So we brought it up and then we kind of skipped over. Why was the humor so important in this book?
Well, I mean, I guess I would say I think I'm a pretty funny guy. I think writing humor comes pretty naturally to me. And so I think that was just, when I conceived of those two characters, Virgil and Jute, kind of the two main protagonists of the story, I wanted them to kind of have a sense of humor, with each other. I think, and you can tell me if you feel otherwise, but I never wanted the humor to come at anyone's expense. Like the humor isn't necessarily supposed to kind of be mocking anyone. I just find that, I found that, writing them with them kind of embracing humor was a way to kind of humanize them.
I'll be honest with you, reading before I got a feel for your story, my fear was that at some point that humor was going to be directed at Bigfooters or, something like that. It never was.
Yeah.
It was just humor for the sake of common everyday. I mean, like my engagement with my girlfriend. I mean, we're smart asses to each other and we say silly shit. And, it was just that.
Yeah. And Virgil and Jute, they've been friends since they were kids. Right. And so I wanted them to just, like when you kind of are hanging out with some old friends, like you just kind of, there's that kind of mode that you adopt. But yeah, that was one thing that I was certain when I wrote this that I would never want to do, is kind of make fun of, use humor in any kind of negative way toward their beliefs or toward what they're doing. If anyone, I think, kind of gets maybe a little bit, kind of taken down a peg, it would be the kind of the Dr. Bernard character, who's this kind of, he's a famous Bigfoot researcher, but he's also now kind of decided that he wants to kind of prove that all of this Bigfoot stuff is nonsense. So I think if anyone kind of gets taken down a peg, I would hope it would be him. That was my intention anyway.
What is it about? Because, like, okay, so I guess we'll talk about movies for a second.
Sure.
There are not very many good Bigfoot movies.
Yeah, I agree. I agree.
There are a handful, maybe a handful and a half, that range from very good to pretty good to then you just got, just trash.
Yeah.
But what do you think it is about, like, your experience writing a fiction novel about Bigfoot?
Yeah.
And versus the documentaries, because you say that you're very much into Bigfoot culture, and I assume that means Finding Bigfoot, Expedition Bigfoot, documentaries, small town
monsters, all their stuff. Yeah.
So what do you think it is about you being able to write a fictional story versus like what we typically get in documentaries?
Yeah, that's actually a really great question. Probably it stems from the fact that I'm not great at writing nonfiction. I just, my preference is always to write fiction, but I knew for the longest time that I wanted to write a book about Bigfoot, right? And that was, in a way, I mean, that was a really big challenge, probably my biggest challenge, which was just figuring out what is my avenue into this story, right? Because like you said, I think I with a few exceptions, there are a lot of pretty bad Bigfoot movies out there, right? And I think that they tend to fall into one of two camps. One is kind of like a kids movie, like a kind of a humorous kids movie, like a Harry and the Hendersons, or kind of a flat out horror,
right?
Like horror genre, right? And there's a few kind of maybe that mix in some of that here and there, or mix them up a little bit, or try something different. But honestly, I mean, and I'm not joking, Eric, when I say for years I kind of felt like I was this airplane circling the airport trying to figure out how I wanted to land this book. And I wrote various pieces of it years and years and years ago and kind of just hung on to them, and I didn't know how it worked. But then what I realized is I think my way into this story was to talk about...
Bubba Wallace here from 2311 Racing. Funny thing about being fast, you end up waiting a lot. First to show up, first in line, then just waiting. Me, I rev up Chumba Casino. With over 200 social casino games, no slow lanes here. Why sit around when you can spin? I'm already racing. Your turn. Play for free at ChumbaCasino.com. Let's Chumba.
Sponsored by Chumba Casino. No purchase necessary. VGW Group. Void where prohibited by law. 21 plus. Terms and conditions apply.
The people who are fascinated by Bigfoot and who are looking for Bigfoot. And so it was really once I kind of settled on my two main characters, Virgil and Jute, that I realized, oh, okay, this is the story that I want to tell. It's really, yes, it's they're looking for Bigfoot. There is that's happening, but really it's the story about about family, about friendship, and about kind of looking for things, right? In many ways, I think the best stories are all about a search for the truth, right? Whether it's a mystery or a crime story or anything like that, it's really about looking for the truth. And that's once I kind of hit on that and realized that what I wanted to focus on was the characters in this story, that was how I kind of found my way into this.
Interesting. Do you believe in Bigfoot?
I do. I do. I don't ask me what it is, because I can't I can't tell you, but I believe that there is something out there that we don't know what it is.
Something's leaving the footprints.
Something's leaving the footprints. Yes. People are seeing something. And again, I will grant that a lot of them are like well-meaning people who've misidentified something, I'm sure.
Mhm.
Right.
Sure.
But not all of them. Like I
No,
do not believe
no.
that all of them have.
I personally, I think that I have been guilty of assigning human qualities to these things.
Yeah.
So my thoughts on these creatures, entities, beings are that they are something much more closely related to us than a undiscovered ape.
Yeah.
I don't know if that's right.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that's and I think that's been a part of my my learning and my, since the first time I saw the Patterson-Gimlin film on In Search Of.
Yeah.
It's just always been that for me. I've never wavered, and like the idea of these things are just an undiscovered ape. To me, I don't know if that's like part of the mystery, that if that is what it is, it would be ruined for me, because I want it to be something that has a higher intelligence, has abilities that can not necessarily walk through portals and stuff like that, but that's what I want, and that's what I hope that it is. Yeah. I don't know if it is, obviously, but that's my hopes.
Well, yeah, I mean, that's really interesting, right? And you just mentioned intelligence, right? I think that's a case where, our human tendency toward hubris really steps in, where we say like, well, obviously we're smarter than a Bigfoot, right? Like, but what if we're not? Like, what if this is a set of creatures that's highly intelligent, and they have just made very different choices about how they want to live? Like, what if whales are far more intelligent than we are, right? But it's just so like, I don't know. It's certainly possible. We've just assumed that we're the smartest because we've got iPhones, but I don't know.
And I guess I think I would make the argument that just about everything else is probably smarter than us.
Yeah. I think so. Yeah.
To use the name of your book in a little different context, American Mythology. Mm-hmm. How do you think that Bigfoot and UFOs, where do they fit in? How do they fit into the mythology that is America?
Yeah. That's a really good question, right? I mean, I think that I think the best myths are flexible, and they are not stuck in time or place. So they may represent different things at different points in history, right? Whether it's UFOs, extraterrestrials may represent some kind of in the 50s probably represented or helped us understand our fear of the dawning nuclear age. I think maybe Bigfoot in the 70s probably represented our dawning sense of kind of ecological necessity, the need to preserve these wild places. But maybe they don't necessarily represent that at this moment, right? And sometimes I don't think you really know what they represent until the moment has passed. I read somewhere that that myth is truth without facts. And so what it really does is it kind of represents like a higher truth. That, so this kind of higher meaning that we might be looking for. And I think,
you're walking right into this, because
okay,
the follow-up was going to be that one of the takeaways from this book for me was a very devout belief.
mm-hmm.
And you're walking right into having a belief.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, honestly, Eric, I can tell you, I worked on this book for a very long time. I started the first draft in 2019. And probably just maybe 9 months ago submitted my final copy edited draft to the publisher. And I think in many ways, writing this book was kind of like a journey, even though it's fiction, it was a journey of belief, and kind of opening myself up to all the possibilities of things that are out there that maybe in the past I would have dismissed. So yeah, no, I think that's absolutely right.
That was we're right at about 55 minutes. And that, I think, was a great way to walk into that, because belief is a central thing in this story.
Yeah, absolutely. And so there are essentially 5 different primary characters that are going on this expedition, and each one of them is kind of starts with in one place of belief. You could look at it as a spectrum on, complete skeptic to, complete and utter believer. And they all kind of, as the story goes along, they all move and slide along that spectrum, right? And end up in some very, very different places. So yeah, I mean, that was part of what I wanted to do with these characters is explore the nature of belief, right? And what does it mean to kind of to believe in things that a lot of people say aren't there, right? That might make fun of you for saying that you believe in them, right? Yeah. What does that say about you, and how do you kind of reconcile?
For every time somebody did that to me.
Sure, yeah, I'm sure. Well, I mean, even until rather recently, if you had asked me, do you believe in Bigfoot? I probably would have just kind of hemmed and hawed and kind of be like, well, but it's so I've just kind of had to grow to be comfortable. It's just saying that,
Yeah, it's funny because down here at the bottom of my notes, the last 3 words I have for the end of the show literally were belief, nature, and friendship.
Yeah. Wow, that really is that is a perfect distillation of what I was going for. That really is. Yeah.
Interesting. Sometimes things really happen for a reason. Giano, it's been a wonderful hour spent with you. Super happy to have made your acquaintance. American Mythology comes out July 15th. Terrific book. If you're into the subject, if you're into fiction, it was a lot of fun. It really was. Release date again, July 15th.
July 15th.
Websites where they can get it?
Anywhere. I mean, they can get it Amazon, Barnes and Noble, local bookstores, anywhere.
And you said that was going to be available in hardback, paperback, ebook,
and audio.
Who did you get?
Paperback won't be released for some time, so it's hardcover, ebook, and audiobook will be July 15th, and it's available for pre-order now.
Why did you contact me when you were looking for somebody to do the audiobook?
Well, I mean, you would have been perfect.
I would love to do it. Love to do it.
My parents really wanted me to do the audiobook. So
did they really?
Yeah. But I don't think I probably could. It is. I mean, audiobook. it's an art form, that the narrators. It's really, I'm in awe of those.
All right, people. Social media again, for anybody that's trying to get a hold of you.
Yeah. Instagram is Giano Cromley, Facebook, Giano Cromley, let's see, on X, I'm Giano C. And yeah, so if you just Google my name, it's an uncommon enough name that it's pretty Googleable.
Googleable?
Yeah, I just made that up.
That's awesome. Giano, thank you so much for being here. Love the book. Everybody, I highly recommend this book. It has the best of everything in it. And honestly, I don't think you'll be disappointed. So go out and get it, July 15th. Giano, thank you so much for the time. I appreciate having you on this show. And I appreciate you listening to the show. That's very flattering. So
yeah, I love it. And Eric, thank you for having me on. This has been a real treat. So I appreciate it.
It's been a pleasure, my friend.
Great.
Good night.
All right. Good night. Take care.